Hey, you know what time it is? Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! I am back, lovelies. I am back. On my favorite day of the week, I am back with Storytime with Chris. Like I always say, you don't have to watch these stories when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max, relax, and chillax time. Ooh, goodness gracious, study time, break time, anytime that you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, wonder, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. Hi, y'all. It's my favorite day of the week, Wednesday. And I'm wearing my favorite color, orange. Orange is the holy color. It is the color of determination, vibrancy, the color of the setting sun and the rising sun. Orange is such a calming color. And a lot of my anime protagonists wear orange. Goku, Ichigo, Naruto, Toriko. Name any other anime protagonists or villains that wear orange. I love orange. Ooh, Hawks from My Hero Academia. He wears orange. So, yeah. Alright, y'all. We are back with Lloyd Alexander's Taran Wanderer, and this one actually is going to be a shorter chapter as an interlude to something else. Yes, okay. So, fasten your seatbelts. Let's get into it. Chapter 6. A Frog. From Carrickadar, the companions made good progress, and within a few days crossed the Yestrad River, where Fluder led them for a time along the farther bank, before turning northeastward toward the hill cantrives. Unlike the valley cantrives, these lands were grayish and flinty. What might once have been fair pasture land, Taran saw to be overlaid with brush, and the long reaches of forest were close-grown and darkly tangled. Fluder admitted his rovings seldom brought him to these parts. The cantrive nobles are as glum as their domains. Play your merriest tune, and the best you could hope for is a sour smile. Yet if the old lore is true, these realms were as rich as any in Prydain. The sheep of the hill cantrives, great Beelord, it said that they had fleece so thick you could sink your arm in it up to the elbow. Nowadays, alas, they tend to be a little scruffy. Adan told me about Auroran Deathlord stole many secrets from the farmers of the valley, Taran replied. Surely he robbed the shepherds of the hill cantrives as well. Fluder nodded. Few treasures he hasn't spoiled or stolen save those of the fair folk, and even Auroran might think twice before trifling with them. But be that as it may, he went on, I'd not change the northern realms where my own kingdom is for any of these. There, my boy, we raise no sheep, but famous bards and warriors. Naturally, the House of Flam has held its throne there for a remarkably long time. In the veins of a Flam, declared the bard, flows royal blood of the sons of Dawn. Prince Gwydion himself is my kinsman. Distant, it's true, he added hastily, but a kinsman nonetheless. Gurgi does not care for famous sheep or fleecy bards, Gurgi wistfully murmured. He is happy at Caer Darbin, oh yes, and wishes he is soon there. As for that, answered Fluder, I'm afraid you'll have hard travel before you see home again. It's anyone's guess how long it will take to find your mysterious mirror. I'll go with you as far as I can, he said to Taran, though sooner or later I shall have to get back to my kingdom. My subjects are always impatient for my return. The harp shuddered violently as the string snapped in two. Fluder's face reddened. He said, yes, what I meant was, I'll be anxious to see them again. The truth of it is, I often have the feeling they manage quite well enough, even when I'm not there. Still, a Flam is dutiful. The companions halted, while Fluder slid from Lion's back and squatted on the turf to repair his broken string. From his jacket, the bard took the large key which he used to tighten the harp's wooden pegs, began patiently retuning the instrument. A raucous cry made Taran glance quickly skyward. It's Ka! He exclaimed, pointing to the winged shape plummeting swiftly toward the companions. Gurgi shouted joyfully and clapped his hands as this crow alighted on Taran's wrist. So you found us, old friend, cried Taran, delighted to have the crow with him once again. Tell me, he went on quickly, How does Eilonwy fare? Does she miss all of us?
Princess!
Caw croaked, beating his wings.
Princess Eilonwy, Taran!
He clacked his beak, hopping up and down on Taran's wrist, and set up such a jabbering and chattering that Taran could barely make out one word from another. The best he could understand was that Eilonwy's indignation at being forced to learn royal behavior had by no means dwindled, and that indeed she missed him, tidings that both cheered Taran and sharpened his yearning for the golden-haired princess. Thank you. Flam, this the way. In the cavern on Mona, Caw also managed to convey glue the giant had been restored to his original size by Dalbin's potion. Caw himself was in the best of spirits, still gabbing at the top of his voice. He flapped his glossy black wings, hopped from Taran's wrist to greet the other companions, and even perched on Lion's head, where he busily ran his beak through the great cat's tawny fur. "His eyes will help our search," Taran said to Fluter, who had left his harp to come and stroke the bird's sleek feathers. "Caw can scout the land better than any of us." "So he can," agreed Fluter, "if he has a mind to, and if you can make him heed you. Otherwise the scamp will have his beak in everyone's business but his own."
Yes, yes,
Gurgi added, shaking a finger at the crow.
Heed commands of kindly master. Help him with flyings and spyings, not pryings and lyings.
In answer, the crow impudently thrust out a sharp black tongue. With a flirt of his tail, he fluttered to the harp and began rapidly twanging the strings with his beak. At the bard's cry of protest, Caw hopped from the instrument's curved frame and snatched up the tuning key, which he began dragging across the turf. "He's brazen as a magpie!" cried Fluter, setting off after the crow. "He's thieving as a jackdaw!" No sooner did Fluter come within half a pace of him than Caw nimbly nibbling, hopped away, again bearing the key in his beak. Say that 2 times fast. Squawking merrily, the crow stayed always out of Fluter's grasp, and Taran could not help laughing at the sight of the long-shanked bard vainly racing in circles, while Caw danced ahead of him. When Gurgi and Taran joined the pursuit, and Taran's fingers had come within a hair's breadth of the crow's tail feathers, Caw saw upwards and flapped teasingly a short distance into the woods. There he lighted on the gnarled branch of a tall ancient oak and peered with bright beady eyes at the companions gathered below. "Come down," Taran ordered as sternly as he could, for the bird's comical antics made it impossible for him to be seriously angry. "I've tried to teach him to behave," Taran sighed, "but it's no use. He'll bring it back when he feels like it and not before."
Hi, drop it, called Fluter, waving his arms. Drop it, I say!
At this, Caw bobbed his head, hunched up his wings, and dropped the key, not into the bard's outstretched hands, but into a hollow of the tree trunk.
Drop it,
croaked Caw, rocking back and forth on the branch, jabbering and chuckling gleefully at his own jest. Fluter snorted. "That bird's ill-mannered as a starling. He's had his merriment, now I shall have the toil." Muttering hard comments about the impudence of waggish crows, the bard flung his arms about the trunk and tried to haul himself upward. Less than halfway, his grip loosened and he came tumbling down to land heavily amid the roots.
Flab is agile,"
Fluter panted, ruefully rubbing his back. "Great Beelord, that's not a tree I can't climb, except this one." He mopped his brow and glared at the high trunk.
"Gurgi climbs, yes!"
cried Gurgi, springing to the oak, with shaggy arms and legs working all at once. In a trice, the creature clambered up the tree, while Fluter shouted encouragement. Gurgi thrust a skinny hand into the hollow.
"Here is tuneful key. Oh, yes," he called. "Clever Gurgi finds it."
He stopped short. Taran saw the creature's face wrinkled in surprise and perplexity. Tossing the key down to Fluter, Gurgi turned once more to the hollow.
"But what is this? What else does Gurgi find with gropings? Kindly master," he shouted, "here is strange something all set away in hidings."
Taran saw the excited creature tuck an object under his arm and slid down the oak tree.
"See with lookings,"
cried Gurgi as Taran and the bard pressed around him. Caw's prank was forgotten at the moment, and the crow, not abashed whatever, flew to Taran's shoulder, stretched out his neck, and crowded forward as if determined to be first to glimpse Gurgi's discovery.
"Is it treasure?"
Gurgi exclaimed.
Oh, treasure of great worth, and Gurgi finds it.
He stamps his feet wildly.
Open it, kindly master, open and see what riches it holds.
When Gurgi pressed it to Taran's hand was a small, squat iron coffer no wider than Taran's palm. Excuse me. Its curved lid was heavily hinged, bound with iron strips and secured by a stout padlock.
Is it jewels? With winkings and blinkings? Or gold with shimmerings and glimmerings?
Cried Gurgi as Taran turned the coffer over and over. Fluter, too, peered at it curiously. Well, friends, the bard remarked, at least we'll have some reward for the trouble that pilfering jackdaw has given us, though from the size of it I fear it shan't be very much. Taran, meanwhile, had been struggling with the lock which refused to give way, the lid resisting all his battering, and finally he had to set the coffer on the ground where Gurgi held it tightly, while the bard and Taran pried at the hinges with the points of their swords. But the coffer was surprisingly strong, and it took all their strength and effort before the lid at last yielded and fell away with a loud rasping snap. Within lay a packet of soft leather which Taran carefully untied, which, by the way, a coffer, children, is to describe a box. Just a box, a small little box. Close to the name coffin, but a coffer is like more palm-like. It's kind of like a box where you put like your fine jewelry or your little trinkets, earrings, or bracelets, and stuff like that.
What is it? What is it?
Yelped Gurgi, jumping up and down on one leg.
Let Gurgi see shining treasure.
Taran laughed and shook his head. The packet held neither gold nor gems, but no more than a slender piece of bone as long as Taran's little finger. Gurgi groaned in disappointment. Fluter snorted. I should say our shaggy friend has found a very small hairpin or a very large toothpick. I doubt we'll have much use for either one. Taran had not ceased examining the strange object. The sliver of bone was dry and brittle, bleached white and highly polished. Whether animal or human, he could not tell. What value can this have? He murmured, frowning. Great value, replied Fluter, if one should ever need a toothpick. Beyond that, he shrugged. Keep it if you like, or toss it away. I can't see it would make any difference. Even the chest is beyond repair. But if it's worthless, Taran said, still studying the bone closely, why should it be so carefully locked up and so carefully hidden? It's been my long experience that people can be very odd about their belongings, said Fluter. A favorite toothpick, a family heirloom. But yes, I see what you're driving at. A flam is quick thinking. Whoever put it away didn't want it found. As I was about to remark, there's considerably more here than meets the eye. And yet, Taran began, a hollow tree seems hardly the safest place to keep anything. On the contrary, answered the bard, what better way to hide something? Indoors it can be found without too much difficulty. Bury it in the ground and there's the problem of moles, badgers, and all such. But a tree like this, he continued, glancing upward, I doubt that anyone but Gurgi could climb it without a ladder, and it's hardly probable that anyone strolling through this forest would be carrying a ladder with them. If the birds or squirrels nest on top, they'd only cover it up all the more. No, whoever put it there gave the matter careful thought and took as much pains as if... Fluter's face paled. As if? He swallowed hard, choking on his own words. Get rid of it, he whispered urgently. Forget we ever found the thing. I can sniff enchantment a mile away. Toothpick, hairpin, or what have you. There's something queer about it. Don't meddle. You know my mind on that score. Two things never mix. One is enchantments and the other one is meddling with them. Taran did not answer immediately, but stared for a time at the polished fragment. At last he said, whatever it might be, it's not ours to take. Yet if there is enchantment, good or evil, dare we leave it? Excuse me. Away with it, cried Fluter. If it's good, there's no harm done. If it's evil, there's no telling what beastly thing might happen. Put it back! By all means, put it back! Taran reluctantly nodded. Wrapping the bone once more, he replaced it in the coffer, set the broken lid loosely on top, and asked Gurgi to return it to the hollow. Gurgi, who had been listening closely to Fluter's talk of enchantment, was loath even to touch the coffer, and only after much urging and pleading by the companions did he agree to do so. He hastily climbed the oak and scuttled down even faster than he had clambered up. And good riddance to it, muttered Fluter, striding as quickly as he could from the forest. Taran and Gurgi after him, the latter casting fearful backward glances until the oak was well out of sight. The companions returned to their steeds and prepared to mount. Fluter picked up his harp. looked about him and called, "I say, where's Lion? Don't tell me she's wandered off." Taran's alarm quickly changed to reassurance. For a moment later, he saw the huge cat plunge from the underbrush and lope to Fluter, who clapped his hands and made loud whispering noises through his teeth. "So there you are, old girl," cried the bard, beaming happily as Lion frisked about him. "Now what have you been after?" Hold on one second, y'all. My supervisor is messaging me. Hold on one second. I think she's caught a... Oh, why, yes. She's caught a frog. Taran exclaimed, catching sight of a pair of long legs with webbed feet dangling from Lion's mouth.
Yes, yes, put in Gurky. A froggy with thumpings and jumpings.
"I should hardly think so," said the bard. "We've seen no swamps or pools, and very little water at all, for the matter of that." Proudly purring, Lion dropped her burden at Fluter's feet. It was indeed a frog, and the biggest Taran had ever seen. The bard, after patting Lion's head and fondly rubbing her ears, knelt and with a certain squeamishness picked up the motionless creature. "Yes, well, I'm delighted, old girl," he said, holding it at arm's length between his thumb and forefinger. "It's lovely. I don't know how to thank you, so often she does this," he explained to Taran. "I don't mean dead frogs, necessarily, but odds and ends. An occasional mouse, that sort of thing. Little gifts she fancies I might enjoy. A sign of affection. I always make a fuss over them. It's the thought, after all, that counts." Taran, curious, took the frog from the bard's hand. Lion, he saw, had carried the creature gently and had in no way harmed it. Instead, the frog had suffered from lack of water. Its skin, splotched in green and yellow, was sadly parched. Its legs feebly splayed, its webbed toes had begun to curl and wither like dry leaves, and its gray bulging eyes were tightly shut. Regretfully, Taran was about to return the creature to the bushes, when the faint tremor of a heartbeat touched his palm. "Fluter, the poor thing's alive," Taran said. "There may still be time to save him." The bard shook his head. "I doubt it. He's too much the worse for wear. A shame, for he's a jolly-looking fellow."
Give poor Froggy a drink, Gurgy suggested. Give him water with sloshings and washings.
In Taran's hand, the frog stirred as in a last painful effort. One eye flickered, the wide mouth gasped, and its throat trembled like a faint pulse.
"Right,"
croaked the frog. "I say, there is life in him yet," exclaimed Fluter, "but he must be desperately sick. I've never heard a frog make a noise like that. Oh, the frog croaked. "Ode!" The creature was struggling to make a further sound, but its croaking dwindled to a hoarse and scraggly audible rasping.
"Elp, elp, elp."
"He is an odd one," remarked Fluter as Taran, more puzzled than ever, held the frog close to his ear. The creature had forced its eyes open and stared at Taran with what seemed a most pitiful, pleading expression. "I've known them to go chug-a-chug," continued Fluter, "and at times thonk. But this fellow, if frogs could talk, I'd swear he was saying, help." Taran gestured the bard to silence. From deep in the frog's throat came another sound, hardly more than a whisper, but clear and unmistakable. Taran's jaw fell. His eyes wide with bewilderment, he turned to Fluter. Barely able to speak, he held the frog in his outstretched hand and gasped, "It's Dolly!" And that is where we will end for today. Which, if you've been keeping up on this series with me for Storytime, Dolly is the right-hand dwarf of the King of the Fair Folk, which is King Idaleg, and Dolly was given the gift of invisibility by Prince Gwydion at the end of the Book of Three, and Dolly pretty much has helped our group of adventurers on numerous occasions, has done a lot of espionage and infiltration, so he's a good spy in case somebody's trying to sneak up on him. So, yeah, Dolly's turned into a frog. He wasn't in the third book, which is the Castle of Lear, and this is the first time we've seen him since the second book, so we're going to find out next time what exactly happened to our fair folk friend. But as always, I appreciate you, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, y'all.